Yeah, I did.
What would you prescribe for the domestic audience, like myself, who's living here at the moment, and what you call the way the Americans look at them, the indigenous nationalists who live in these poor countries who suffer like the people in Haiti?
Yeah, well, what maybe I wasn't clear, but what I prescribe is extending democracy in the United States. That is, creating popular forces in the United States which are able to become significant enough to take control over, or at least significantly influence, policy decisions, in a longer run to break down the autocratic, hierarchic institutions which have control, after all, a corporate-run system, and in that way to allow the possibilities of, to allow people in the subject domains a degree of openness and freedom that they're not going to have as long as the American population remains, spectators and outsiders. That's what I recommend. I mean, not very profound.
The third world nations.
As far as the third world is concerned? Well, the third world has extremely narrow options open to it. It's just very oppressed. And it's very hard, and first of all, it's not my place to recommend things to them, okay, well, look, intellectual doesn't mean anything, a guy who drives a taxi cab is no less an intellectual than a guy who teaches in the university, often more an intellectual. But the point is, we're talking about people, what should people do? Well, if somebody in the
you're sharing ideas with us at the moment,
right,
so I meant
yeah.
Someone who's sharing
fine,
ideas
but
and
my advice, I don't have much in the way of advice to the third world countries. For one thing,
is it depressing?
But I'm talking to the people in the United States, right? I'm talking to people in the United States and what I think they ought to do. If you ask me what the Palestinians ought to do, or what the Haitians ought to do, or what the Nicaraguans ought to do, frankly, I don't have a lot to suggest. I think that they have to decide what they're going to do. What I would like to do is to take our boot off their neck, okay? Then they can decide what they want to do. If somebody wants my advice, I'll tell them, but I don't see why they should pay any attention to it.
Well, I've lived here for 7 years, and I think your opinions are worth a while. Thanks.
Okay.